Okay, I wanted to make a realistic looking hopper that imitates I don't know what it's called, but it's a large green hopper that's pretty common in the part of Brazil that I'm going to fish. So I'm going to use a size 4. I think this hopper could be made in probably anything 2, 4, 6, 8, even 10. And I will include some templates for the sizing of all the parts that go with this. The parts I'm going to include are for this size 4 hook, but obviously you can scale them up or down if you're going to use a different size hook. So the first step is, I'm just going to show you an example because I'm not going to go through it because it takes a lot of time. I have taken 4 pieces of 2mm lime green foam, and I have super glued them together. I super glued them and I let them set for a while, forgot about it. And then after the glue is set, I basically cut it down to size. So you can see this is the original piece. So I've cut some scrap off of the end, and obviously this is a smaller piece, but just wanted to show you what the 8mm thick looks like. So just kind of use my razor blade and my scissors to cut at this, to kind of make a tapered rear portion, kind of like a rounded head, and I rounded all the edges, all the corners. The base, that's the basic shape of the body, which is going to go on this size 2 hook. The other thing I did was I took a razor blade and made some cuts in the body for where I'm going to insert the hook, and we'll super glue the hook in there. And then everything will be tied on the body itself. There's no tying that goes on, well, other than the first step, there's no tying that goes on the hook shank. So let me show you how I prep the hook for attachment to the body. Let me get the hook set up in the vise. All right, good. I'm going to lay a base. Oh, this is really loose. Lay a base of thread across the shank all the way down to the bend of the hook. Okay. All right. Now, the step I'm going to take here to ensure that that the body will not spin around. I mean, it's going to be super glued. The body will be super glued onto the shank, but just to ensure that it doesn't spin, because you put this on here and it can move, I'm going to take 2 small pieces of monofilament. You know, if you've never seen this technique before, basically I'm just going to tie them to the shank of the hook with a little super glue, and it's just going to create, like, I don't know how to describe it other than more surface area, more vertical surface area for the foam body to grab onto. And I'm just going to do a very small portion on the top and bottom. I'm not going to do I could do the majority of the hook shank, but I'm just going to kind of eyeball this. I think if I cut it in half, that's going to be too big, but let's see. Yeah, that's going to be a little too big. All right, I'm going to take a little bit off of each one of these. All right. So let me get the one on the top tied in first. I'm going to tie it loosely so it doesn't spin on me. And this is just, even that's a little bit long. I don't like, it sticks out a little bit too much, but I'm going to cut that a tiny bit shorter. Okay. Okay, and I'm just going to adjust it to make sure it's sitting on the top of the hook shank. So you can see there, I've already made that a little bit thicker. That probably would be enough to prevent spinning, but I'm going to do it on the bottom as well. Again, let's make that a little shorter. Very loose, not pulling tight, because I don't want to pull it off the plane, so to speak, of the hook shank. Okay, see how just a little bit of tension that came off track. All right, good. So I've added some thickness to the hook shank, and I'm just going to manipulate that around. Okay, good. So it creates like a flat surface that the foam body can bend onto. I am going to just make a couple overhand knots just to get that set. Get rid of the thread. I'm going to wrap a little super glue over that. Should dry pretty quick. Okay. And then I'm going to get the body on. All right, so here's the body, like I showed you earlier. I did cut out, I did make a slit in here for the hooks to sit in. And you can still put this on while this is drying, but you need a little bit of space in there. You see how that kind of opens up? So I'm just going to put that in there. All right, that's pretty good. I'm just going to let that dry, and then I'm going to put a thicker layer of super glue, and I will pinch it with one of these clips to really kind of get it squeezed into place. I can do that right now. So it's already kind of dried there. All right, so the glue is basically set, at least initially, the initial batch of glue. I'm going to put a thicker bead of super glue on here, and then I'm going to, this is just some Gorilla super glue, it's a little bit thicker, gel. So I'm just going to fill this cavity with glue, and then I'm going to use a clip to kind of keep that closed. I don't need a lot because we're going to squeeze it, and some is going to squeeze out. So I'm just going to try to set this here. It's set pretty quick. While that's drying, put that aside, and I'm going to show you how we prep the other pieces. So there's a couple different pieces. There's what I'll call the wing case. There is a, I don't know if thorax is the proper scientific term for it. So that's one per. Little strike indicator. I've already cut these ahead of time, and I'll have these on the template. There's some EP fiber, which I've set aside as the wing. There are rubber legs. These are the yellow ones, which I've put a stripe on with. I use these oil-based Sharpie inks, which don't come off in mortar. So I've just made some stripes just for a little contrast. And the other thing is the hind legs, which I will demonstrate how I do the hind legs. Okay, I'm going to do that first while the glue is drying. Take up a little time here. So here's a hind leg that I have ready to go. Now I have a little handy tool here, which is a defective hook that came in one of the packs that I just keep on my vise. This is exactly how it came in the pack. So obviously I'm not using it for fishing. But what I did was I poked a small hole, just went through the hole, through this piece of foam. This is 2mm green foam. It's a little bit darker color. So I just put it right through, just pierced a hole in there, okay? And then what I'll do is I'll use my bobbin threader, and I'll put it right through that hole that I created, okay? I will take one of my pre-made legs, and I'll put it right through the bobbin threader, and I will just pull it right through, all the way through. Okay, so now we're going to adjust this later, but now this is through the hind leg, and you'll see how it all fits on later. But so I got this one, and I already have the one that I made, so we will keep those aside for now as one of the parts. And let's check on our super glue stat. Okay, good. I'm just moving the clip up a little bit so it squeezes close to the top here. Good. Just like that. I want the super glue to dry kind of encircling the hook. So leave that be for a minute. And once that's done, I'll put it back on the vise and we'll make this fly. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to show you when I explained earlier, this is all the scrap right here that I cut off of when I had the 8 millimeters of foam together. And I cut it using the razor blade and the scissors. This is all the scrap that I cut off of it. So it takes a while to shape it, to taper the tail and to make the head rounded. I'm making lots of little cuts. It's nothing precise, but just do the best you can. You're just trying to make the body shape of a grasshopper, basically. So this is all the scrap that I cut off before making the video. Didn't want to bore you with that. The body of the fly is broken into 3 sections. And it's been a long time since I took high school biology, so I'm not going to be technical. I'm going to call it the head section, the middle section, and then the rear section. So I'm going to work from the rear forward. I'm going to start the rear section pretty much around where the point of the hook is, and I'm just going to tie some thread in here. And I'm using this flat wax thread because you can pull it pretty tight without damaging the foam. So I'm going to do a couple wraps. Now you don't want to do too many wraps on this foam, because it just bulks up a lot. So let's start the thread in there. What we're going to tie in this section here is what I'll call the wing case and the 2 hind legs and the strike indicator. So let's start with the wing case. Really just going to place it on the top, but I'm going to have it go a little bit beyond the body, just a little bit beyond the body. So I'm going to try to tie it in with 1 wrap. Okay, good. Squeeze it tight, let it flare up a little bit. Okay, that's all we need right now. We're going to get rid of that shortly. Let's put the hind legs in. So I'm going to put this hind leg on. Kind of want it to stick up a little bit like that. Yeah, that's good. All right. I'm going to grab that right there. Actually, I'm going to put it a little bit forward because I want to get more. All right. Yeah, just like that. About 45 degrees. I'm just going to wrap it twice. Again, I don't want too much bulk here. I already got that little piece, which I would like to eliminate. But I like the angle of that leg. Let me get the second one now. Try to match it up. Good. All right, I got those hind legs up at the right angle. I'm pulling pretty tight on this thread. And what I'm going to do, this wing case, I want it to sit down a little bit. And I'm just going to add a little dab of super glue right towards the base where it's attached, because I don't want it totally flat. I want a little bit of an angle, but I'm not going to be able to recreate that with just the thread. So I'm going to put a dab of super glue. If I can find my super glue. I'll just hold that down for a second. There we go. That should be good. I'm just going to hold that with my finger. Just enough time to let it set. Good. I'm just going to lift that up a little bit. There we go. And that's perfect. Okay. So that's what we got so far. We got the rear section done. A couple of things on the legs here. I'm going to make an overhand knot on both of these tag ends before I cut them, just so the leg won't fall through this hole that I made in the back leg. All right, while that super glue is setting, I'm going to take one leg, just make an overhand knot here. I'm going to pull it snug, but not super tight. Actually, I will. I'm going to get the other one set up. All right, I'm going to give those a little bit of a pull, maybe a little tighter than I thought originally. I'm going to hit those. I'm I'm not gonna pull them all the way through yet. Just gonna hit them with a tiny little bit of Loctite super glue, and then I'll pull them really tight, just so they don't pull through these hind legs. So I'm just gonna get that tiny little. You don't need a lot. All right. That dries fast, so literally by the time I get my lid on and come back to it, it's good. I'm gonna pull it tight. There we go. And tight. Okay. So that's fine. I can pull the leg through the I can pull the rubber leg through the hind leg. Just kind of let it sit there. Same thing here. I'm going to get rid of basically the top and the bottom, just so it's out of the way. This top portion I do not need. All right. Before I move on to the next segment, one more thing I got to tie on this section, and that is our strike indicator, some EP. Just give that a little snip there. And again, try to do as few wraps as possible here. We don't want to make this too thick, so I'm going to just tie that in loosely, give it a good pull. Okay, good. Looks pretty good. Okay, that's all I'm going to put in. I'm going to do two. This, I'm just going to cut it to make it even. Okay. I'm going to do a little bit of trimming here before I finish everything off and move on. I'm going to probably just leave this be. It kind of helps the buoyancy a little bit, but I'm going to get rid of these legs. I'm just going to cut them down to about, I may trim them further towards the end, but I'm just going to get half of this off because the strands are going to get in the way. And just go around the other side. All right, that's good for now. I'm going to take my curved scissors here and just try to get rid of a little bit of this extra material from the hind legs. Just cut it real close. Just try to get it as close to the body as I can, but it's not a big deal. Okay. All right, I'm going to cut off with the straight scissors. I'm going to cut off a little bit of this piece from the wing. I don't need much of that. Good. Just round the corner a little bit. All right, so got the hind legs, got the wing case that's slightly super glued down, strike indicator. What I'm going to try to do very carefully is whip finish this off so I am finished with the rear section, and then we'll get to the middle section and then the head. So let's see if I can do this without anything coming untied. Just going to do two there. Good. Oops. Yep, that's good. All right, and I'm going to secure everything under here with this thread. I'm going to just put some head cement on here just to keep it all in place. We're good right now. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Just got a little bit, just some extra pieces kind of get deformed from my whip finish. Okay, good. All right, let's get some head cement on this before my knots change their mind and come undone. And we're going to let that sit, and we'll move on to the next step. That's all you need, just a little bit. All right, so section 2 now ready to go. Section 2 is basically some gluing and a little bit of thread wraps, but not much. But Gonna get our super glue, and we're gonna glue this. I don't know what you call this piece. Sorry if there's any entomologists watching, but I'm just gonna basically super glue this. I'm gonna call it a thorax. I don't know if that's the right term, but I'm gonna glue that down. Just gonna squeeze a little bit on here and then kind of work it into place. Not putting too much because I don't want it to leak out. I'm just squeezing this until the glue dries, and trying to make sure that my hands don't dry with it. Okay. All right, while this glue dries, I'm going to prepare the antennas, and I'm going to try something that I've never tried before, right here and now. I'm thinking about a good way to make an antenna on these things. And I looked at some pictures of green hoppers, and looks like their antennas are somewhat orange. So I have an old spool here of 3X tippet. It's about 8-pound test. I never really use it, or rarely use it. So I'm just going to pull some line out of here, and I'm going to hit it with my Sharpie. I'm going to hit it with my orange Sharpie marker, the oil-based ink. And I'm just going to cover it with ink. I'm just doing like a 6-8 inch stretch here of monofilament. I'm going to let that oil-based ink hopefully dry and color this monofilament. I think this is going to work. It looks like when I remove it from the, it looks like it's going to work. Looks like it covered. Gonna leave that just like that. All right, let's move along with that. We finished this little piece here. I'm going to call this section 2A because we're not quite at the head yet. But I'm going to start my thread back on here, the flat wax green thread. I'm going to give it a good squeeze there. All right, good. Wrap it a couple times and pull it pretty tight just to kind of set that up. Again, I don't want to do too many wraps because this stuff is thick, builds up quickly. I'm just going to get rid of this tag here. All right. Couple things going on this step. We're going to put some more legs in. They're not jointed, just going to have regular legs. Banded, I use that oil-based orange ink just to add some contrast to the legs. And I'm going to put a little foam strike indicator in here. I'm going to try to do it if possible. Again, I don't want to lay too much thread on this because it builds up quickly. I'm going to try to get all these in 1 or 2 wraps. So the legs closest to me, tie that in. Okay. Just going to let that thread sit there while I kind of adjust the legs. Just pull them down a tiny bit. Kind of want them to sit in the middle of the body. Gain some thread back here. I'm going to try to get this all done in 1 wrap. Let's see if we can do it without messing it up. All right, that's 1 wrap. I'm going to pull tight. Good. Second wrap is going to be this strike indicator, which we will trim. It's a little bit too big. Okay, I'm going to pull tight. Okay, good. All right, that's it. Yeah, I may put a tiny piece of glue just to pull that back a little bit, just a little bit. We'll see. Probably do that at the end. Let me do another. I'm just going to cut these a little bit off, just so that it's a little bit easier to work with. I'll probably wind up shortening them anyway. But let's get these just to make it easier to whip finish, so there's not too much rubber getting in my way. Okay. All right, I'm going to make sure I like the placement of those. This one's a little high, so I don't like that. Good. All right, that's better. All right. Try to whip finish this. Let's see if it's any easier if I actually use the whip finishing tool. Maybe. One. Oops. All right, I got one. Sometimes it's a little harder with the whip finisher. But I like it. I'm going to pull it tight. And we're going to fix this stuff up with super glue anyhow. I'm sorry, with head cement anyway. So let's pull that off. Put some head cement on there immediately so my knot doesn't come undone. Going to get rid of most of this. Good. And I'm going to take a small dab of super glue, just try to get it like a little bit angled back, not a ton. Just going to put a small dab of super glue. Real small. And I'm just going to hold it kind of in the position I want, just for about 10 seconds or so, just till it sets. All right, let's try to finish this thing. So, starting with, we're gonna work on 3 things on the head. The first thing I want to do, I want to try to cut some material away, if possible. I don't have a whole lot to cut away, but I'm just going to try to cut a little notch out of the bottom. I should have done that before I started this, but I just didn't. So that grasshoppers have that kind of that little, I don't know, little bump that comes up as a jaw, I guess. So I'm going to try to cut a small sliver out. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to continue, but because I don't really have much space between the bottom of the foam and the hook, but I'm going to cut out whatever's there just to kind of make that little jaw pronounced. Then we'll put 2 eyes on, and then the antenna, and then this thing's done. All right, I'm going to take my blade. I don't know if this is going to work. Got to get the legs out of the way. Trying to hold this steady. I looked at a couple pictures online of hoppers. They kind of had like this kind of looking eye, kind of like a dull red eyeball. But this is not the right size. It's way too big. Wouldn't look right. So as much as I'd like to use the right color, I'm going to go with a much smaller eye that I have. And this is kind of like that amber color eye. That's what I'm going to use. I'm just going to use a dab of super glue. I'm going to I think it's going to be better if I put the bead of glue here. Yeah. Whoops, that's like too much. All right, got to be super careful that the legs don't bounce up and hit this. So grab the eye with my bodkin. Move that up a little bit. There we go. All right. Good. This thing is coming to life. Same thing on the other side. Little tiny dab. That's all you need. Very small amount. Okay, that's all we need. While those eyes dry, I'm going to prepare the antenna. Actually, I'm going to need the super glue again. Just a quick second. I'm going to use the other one because I really need a minute amount of super glue. Put the eyes away. All right. I've got my little tool again that I'm going to use. My little hook defect that came in the package. Straight hook. All right. What I'm going to do is pretty much in the top of the head, on the top corner, I'm going to pierce 2 holes in here, and we're going to put the antenna in there. So I'm going to just try to get either side of the top of the head, kind of right there. I'm just going to hold the body, just going to poke a hole here, out, and I hope this is going to work. Okay. Let's give this a try. This is kind of a new technique for me. Not 100% sure how it's going to work, but let's give it a shot. I'm basically just going to touch the top of the hole that I made with a little bit of super glue. I'm going to just do one at a time because I don't know how difficult this is going to be, and I don't want it to dry out in that hole. So let's see if this works. Good, went right in. Went right in. Okay, let's try the other hole. All right, good. Just putting a tiny bit around, so hopefully this makes contact when it goes in. And you gotta have good eyesight here. This is small. Here we go. All right, I'm pushing it in what I think is in. Maybe I'll hit it with another little tiny bit. Good. Good. All right. I'm gonna let that sit on there and dry. But yeah, we are basically done. We're gonna cut the antenna down to size. But yeah, this is a cool looking hopper. So, actually, I think I'm just gonna cut it down here. Super glue's had a minute to dry. There we go. Look at that. That is a cool looking thing. Look at that. Looks pretty good, huh? Nice antenna. It's got the eyes, the legs. This is what it looks like from the bottom. So I'm excited to fish this thing. I mean, put so much time and effort to it. I hope it doesn't get destroyed with one fish. But man, this is kind of just a fun fly to make. This is not something you're going to make, mass produce a lot of these things because there's so many parts and it takes so much time. What I will do as I wind up the video, I did put a template for a size 2 hook. I did put all these pieces, and I measured them out. You know, the approximate size and the pieces that you need. So you can use that as a guideline. Of course, all hooks are not created equal. You go to a Gamakatsu or Mustad size 4 hook for hoppers, it'll probably be different than this. So use it as a guideline. And yeah, that's it. This is I don't even know what we're going to call it. I guess we'll just call it a grasshopper. But hope this was, hope you found the video helpful if you're gonna make something like this. And any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section. And also I'll list my Instagram at the end of the video and give you updates on my trip to Brazil this summer, where I'm gonna use this fly and other flies like it. And when I come back, I'll be updating the Instagram with all of the interesting things that I get into on that river. So thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.